Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top stories that we're tracking for you this evening. A bonanza for the Union government. The RBI announces a record 2.11 lakh crore rupees as surplus dividend for FY24. That's double the government's budgeted dividend and 140% more than FY23's payout. The central bank also increases the contingency buffer to 6.5% of its balance sheet. The government is likely to revise its borrowing target lower after the RBI's dividend. Sources say the size of the Treasury bill auction could be cut by 44%. The 10-year bond yield drops to its lowest level in a year. Paytm's Q4 loss widens to 550 crore rupees. The winding up of the payments bank leads to an impairment of 227 crores. Warns of more losses in Q1 of this fiscal, expects to recover starting Q2. Paytm also signals more job cuts, plans to save up to 500 crore rupees in employee cost. Hospitality chain Oyo withdraws its IPO papers as it plans a private fundraising drive. Sources say the company is looking to raise up to $90 million from family offices. The money will go towards paying off debt to achieve profitability. A fresh twist in the battle between SpiceJet and its former promoter Kalanidhi Maran. SpiceJet claims a refund of 450 crores from Maran after a Delhi High Court order, but Maran called SpiceJet claims misconceived and says he is still owed 353 crore rupees. Norway, Ireland and Spain decide to formally recognize Palestine as a state next week despite Israel's warning. Israel retaliates by recalling its ambassadors to Ireland and Norway. Over 140 nations have formally recognized Palestine, barring the US, UK, Canada, Australia, among others. After protests by Indian nationals in Cambodia over a suspected cyber fraud, government forms a high-level committee. Home Ministry sets up a panel to mitigate cyber crime originating from Southeast Asia, especially from Cambodia, Myanmar and Laos. North India remains on red alert. The Met predicts severe heatwave conditions until the weekend, as maximum temperatures can reach 47 degrees in several places in Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and Western UP. The Calcutta High Court cancels all OBC certificates issued in West Bengal since 2010, scraps several provisions of the state's Backward Classes Act as illegal, directs a fresh list to be prepared based on the 1993 version of the Act. The court, however, clarifies that those who got employment on the basis of the certificates will not lose their jobs. India's self-regulatory body for advertising finds 39% of the advertisements in FY24 violated the law. Most violations are in drugs and medicines, followed by illegal offshore betting. 21% of the ads scrutinized did not have proper disclosures by influencers. Well, let's start with the day's trading action. The Sensex and the Nifty ending marginally in the green. This after a volatile session. The Sensex gaining over 260 points and the Nifty gained nearly 70 points. Bank stocks did decline in trade, but mid-caps managed to end in the green. Another record close for the mid-cap index, which closed about 100 points higher. The Nifty Bank in the red and the Sensex and the Nifty just about in positive territory. But the big story this evening, the Reserve Bank of India has announced a record annual dividend of 2.11 lakh crore rupees for the government. This is a bonanza which had budgeted just over 1 lakh crores, and the payout is double the amount. This dividend is nearly 3 times higher than the 87,000 crore rupee payout in FY23. Ritu standing by with more. Ritu, a bonanza for the government courtesy the Reserve Bank.
Massive dividend payout of 2,10,874 crores from the Reserve Bank of India to the central government for FY24, a record high transfer and 142% more than the FY23 surplus transfer of 87,416 crore rupees. Now, economists were expecting a dividend transfer of 1 lakh crores or thereabouts, but this figure far surpasses that. This is likely on the back of expected higher interest income from foreign securities or bond holdings. Now, there was an expected sharp rise in interest earned by RBI through its foreign exchange assets, and that in turn can be attributed to the rate hikes undertaken by the US Federal Reserve in the last 2 years. We have to wait for the RBI annual report for more details, but clearly RBI's earnings from foreign assets would have contributed to this kind of a surplus. Now, there will likely be some revaluation gains in forex reserves as well, unlike what we saw in 2022. Now, importantly, this record high surplus is coming along with an increase in RBI's contingency risk buffer to 6.5% for the year to support growth and overall economic activity at the upper limit of the 5.5 to 6.5% range. Now keep in mind the government had budgeted 1.02 lakh crores as dividend from the RBI plus the state-owned lenders for FY25. So this 2.1 lakh crore surplus is a huge windfall gain. The bumper dividend from RBI is going to support the government's liquidity and expenditure going forward, although the expenditure from the government itself is only expected to pick up after elections.
Absolutely. And in fact, let's take that point forward. How does this change the government's finances? Sapna is standing by with the details. Sapna, what are you picking up on the possibility of the government lowering its borrowing program on the back of this cushion provided by the Reserve Bank? Or is it likely to use this money towards more expenditure? What are you hearing?
Well, even before the RBI dividend numbers came in, there has been an expectation building up, looking at the government's actions in the month of May. First, they announced a buyback program, basically to repurchase its debt and kind of save interest costs. Then second, when that has not been extremely successful, then they have done, they have cut their T-bill auction size by 44% in the ongoing quarter. So they have been trying to basically look at options, and they're trying to use their surplus cash in a better way. And from that onwards, an expectation has been building up that they may actually finally resort to a cut in their FY 2025 borrowing if the cash surplus situation doesn't improve or doesn't come down. Having said that, now on top of that, you have the added RBI dividend of 2 lakh crores plus, adding to the government's already surplus cash balance. So keeping that in mind, it may just be possible that at the time of the budget, a full-fledged assessment, of course, will unfold, and at that point in time, a call can be taken. If the government resorts to a borrowing cut, this will be extremely good in terms of sending a signal to the market, bringing in private sector, and also, maybe a lower FD number, so to speak. This will help them meet the glide path of 4.5% every target of FY26. On the other hand, it also gives them comfort to take care of any additional welfare measures that they may have in mind. But net, as of now, the cash surplus situation of the government is what is driving most of these actions. And as of now, it appears that maybe they would like to lean towards a borrowing cut sometime during the year, if not at the time of the budget.
Cash is a short-term thing. The revenue is important. Cash will fluctuate based on expectation. Cash is not something which can be managed, or I can't tell you how cash will be managed. But I can tell you that this dividend is good for the revenue of the government. It's good for the fiscal position of the government. It's always good. All revenue is welcome.
On a budget of about 5 lakh crores, difference of 1 lakh crores is not that significant if you look in the overall terms. And my suspicion was that when the government budgeted 5.1% of the fiscal deficit for 24-25, it had perhaps under budgeted its envisaged capital expenditure. I don't want to raise expectations on further consolidation of the borrowing program or the fiscal deficit.
While the Reserve Bank has transferred what amounts to largesse to the government, it is only the government's due which the RBI has rendered to it, and also made a provision which has been transferred to the contingency fund of the RBI. So that in any case, if there is any attack on the currency, if there is any issue which the RBI faces, the RBI is strong enough. The balance sheet is, how shall I put it, absolutely bulletproof.
Bulletproof balance sheet, that's the Reserve Bank, and providing a big bumper to the government. Moving on to earnings now. Farmer major Sun Pharma's revenues below estimates for the fourth quarter. This is sales revenue from its US business came in below expectations despite growing 11% year on year. Profits and margins did top analyst estimates, aided by a 62% jump in other income. Retailer Nykaa's Q4 profit jumped nearly fourfold to 9 crores versus 2.3 crores in the same quarter last year. Revenue up 28% to over 1,600 crores, while margins stood at 5.6% versus 5.4% in the previous quarter. That's Nykaa for you. On to Paytm. Q4 loss has widened to 550 crore rupees. This after RBI's restrictions on its payment bank business led to an impairment of 227 crore rupees. Paytm's revenues fell by 20% from the previous quarter, while the gross merchandise value also took a hit. The fintech major has warned of more losses in Q1 of this fiscal. It's also signaled more job cuts and plans to save up to 500 crores in employee costs. So remember, this is the quarter that reflects the pain post the restrictions coming in for Paytm's payment bank. Hospitality company Oyo has shelved its plans to hit Dalal Street, at least for now. The company, which withdrew its IPO papers from SEBI last week, is now learned to be looking at raising money from private investors. Aishwarya is standing by with more details. Aishwarya, what's the plan now as far as Oyo's fundraise is concerned, and how does this impact the company's valuations?
Hospitality major Oyo is in talks with fintech firm Incred to raise up to $80 to $90 million from family offices, sources have told CNBC-TV18. Now, this comes after the company decided not to go for an IPO and withdrew its DRHP papers from SEBI on May 17th. The startup is seeking a valuation of $3 to $4 billion, which is a down round of nearly 75 to 77% from its peak $10 billion valuation back in 2019. Sources added that a large chunk of the money will be used to pay off Oyo's debt, which in turn will help them achieve profitability. In the town hall meeting today, founder Ritesh Agarwal said that Oyo had its maiden net profitable year, posting a profit after tax of 100 crore rupees in FY24. This comes as Oyo approaches the completion of refinancing plans to earn up to $450 million through the issuing of dollar bonds, which is being led by JP Morgan. Now, the company is planning to file a fresh DRHP post the financing round. The SoftBank-backed startup refiled its DRHP for IPO via confidential route last year to raise up to $400 to $600 million from public markets. Back to you.
Aishwarya, many thanks for joining us. So Oyo shelving its IPO plans for now, back in the private market. There is a fresh twist in the long-standing battle between SpiceJet and its former promoter Kalanidhi Maran. SpiceJet claims a refund of 450 crore rupees from Maran after a Delhi High Court order, but Maran calls SpiceJet's claims misconceived and says that he still owed 353 crore rupees. Ashmit joins us now to make sense of where things currently stand. Ashmit, what do we make of this latest development?
Well, a curious case of claims and counterclaims between SpiceJet and Kalanidhi Maran. SpiceJet claims that they're entitled to a refund of 450 crore rupees. Kalanidhi Maran, on the other hand, says that he's entitled to push ahead and seek further payment of 353 crore rupees from SpiceJet. Now, here are the brief facts of the case. 2018, there was an arbitral award in favor of Kalanidhi Maran. This was challenged by SpiceJet before a single-judge bench of the Delhi High Court. They lost the battle there, subsequently moved the division bench, and it is this division bench which passed the latest order as of May 17th, which is the one that is leading to these claims and counterclaims. Now, importantly, SpiceJet claims that their understanding is that on the back of findings by the division bench of the Delhi High Court, they are now entitled to claim a refund of 450 crore rupees. SpiceJet points out that they've paid in excess of 700, and of that amount, they are entitled to claim a refund of 450 crore rupees. SpiceJet, as a part of its statement, goes on to say that there are various aspects, the various contentions of theirs which have been upheld by the Delhi High Court, including patent illegalities, breaches by Kalanidhi Maran, and that is something that holds them in good stead. However, Kalanidhi Maran has a very different view. They issued a statement as well. Kalanidhi Maran goes on to argue that all of these claims are mischievous, are misconceived, and importantly designed to mislead especially the SpiceJet investors. Here, Kalanidhi Maran very clearly points out that at no point does the division bench issue directions for issuance of refunds. In fact, further goes on to say that there is no stay that has been granted on this arbitral award, and therefore no case is made out for grant of a refund. But further goes on to say that the statement goes on to say that they are eligible to continue with their execution proceedings in the Delhi High Court and are entitled to seek further payment of 353 crore rupees. So clearly a case of claims and counterclaims between SpiceJet and Kalanidhi Maran.
Ashwit, many thanks for joining us. The big international story today: Norway, Ireland and Spain have decided to formally recognize Palestine as a state next week. This despite Israel's warning. Israel has retaliated by recalling its ambassadors to Israel. Norway, over 140 nations have formally recognized Palestine, barring the US, UK, Canada, Australia, among others.
Today, Ireland, Norway and Spain are announcing that we recognize the state of Palestine. Each of us will now undertake whatever national steps are necessary to give effect to that decision. In the lead up to today's announcement, I've spoken with a number of other leaders and counterparts, and I'm confident that further countries will join us. This is an historic and important day for Ireland and for Palestine.
Meanwhile, Israel's offensive in Gaza continues. 35,000 Palestinians have been killed since the conflict broke out in the region on October 7th, that is, as per Hamas's run health ministry. The fighting in Rafah continues, with the UN suspending food distribution due to the lack of supplies. Israeli forces have also entered a refugee camp in northern Gaza. They attacked a hospital and damaged residential areas nearby with aerial bombardment. In Iran, the funeral for Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi and other officials killed in the helicopter crash being held today. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar visited Iran to attend the official ceremony, extend India's condolence. India also observed a one-day mourning yesterday as a mark of respect for the Iranian leader. Unlike China, the world is not threatened by India's rise. Its growth is welcomed universally. That's the word in from the president of the Eurasia Group. In an exclusive interview with CNBC-TV18, Ian Bremer praised India's ideology of wanting to be friends with everybody. Speaking of geopolitical tensions, Bremer said he believes that Israel will continue to fight the Gaza war with support from its cabinet and citizens. He also expects the war to hurt US President Joe Biden's prospects in the elections. Take a look.
Outcome looks very likely to be exactly the same government you had going in, with just about the same number of seats and 5 more years of a very popular prime minister driving a lot of economic growth and pretty strong relations with the rest of the world. So, that is a good story. That is an area of stability, and India's rise is not an issue that's giving countries consternation. It's not something when you talk about that everyone says, oh my God, what are we going to do about India becoming more powerful? People generally welcome it, and that is a good thing to hear. Israel is going to continue this war on the ground in Gaza. It is overwhelmingly supported by the Israeli government, by the war cabinet, and by the vast majority of the Israeli people. Biden's in a lot of trouble on this issue. The right wing, the Republicans, are saying that Biden is too soft, that he's the guy that is, trying to cut a deal with the Iranians and reduce sanctions. He's the guy that says he's going to suspend some military aid to Israel, while most of his own Democrats are saying that he's whitewashing a genocide.
And catch the full conversation with Ian Bremer on Global Dialogue at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC-TV18. News from the aviation space, where Singapore Airlines CEO has issued a public apology after its flight from London to Singapore encountered severe turbulence, causing numerous injuries and 1 fatality. In a statement, Singapore Airlines says the company is cooperating with the relevant authorities on the investigation, adding that the airline's priority is to render assistance to those injured, both crew as well as passengers. Listen in to a passenger who was on board that flight as he recounts the horror.
It was really, really quick. Which is why, I think nobody could really respond to it. In my recollection of what happened, I was in my chair, and I think I was resting at that point, but I was belted in. If I remember correctly, I think the seatbelt signs were off. There were there were people within the lavatories and the crew that were working. Anybody who were standing, especially the people within the lavatories, and were the most injured from what I've seen.
We are deeply saddened by this incident. It has resulted in 1 confirmed fatality and multiple injuries. On behalf of Singapore Airlines, I would like to express my deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased. We are very sorry for the traumatic experience that everyone on board SQ321 went through. Our priority is to render all possible assistance to our passengers and crew members.
Well, that's Singapore Airlines. And of course, as we've been pointing out, it is best to stay belted even if the seatbelt signs are off. Up next on India Business Hour, after protests by Indian nationals in Cambodia over a suspected cyber fraud, the government forms a high-level committee. The Home Ministry sets up a panel to mitigate cybercrime originating from Southeast Asia. Details coming up. Catch all of CNBC-TV18's news updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. North India remains on red alert as India's Met Department predicts a severe heat wave until the weekend. The IMD said that maximum temperatures can reach 47 degrees in several places in Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and western UP. It is scorching across northern parts of India. The Calcutta High Court has cancelled all OBC certificates, approximately 5 lakh, that were issued in West Bengal since 2010. The court has passed the judgment while hearing a PIL that challenged the process of granting OBC certificates. It struck down certain provisions of the West Bengal Backward Classes Act that came into force in 2012. However, the court clarified that those who had attained employment with the help of the OBC certificate would not lose their jobs. This comes as a setback to the Trinamool Congress, which came to power in the state in 2011. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee said they will not accept the order and will appeal.
They want to snatch away the rights of OBC certificate holders and tribals. I won't let that happen. They are economic backward classes, but they stay here in my state and I respect them.
Mamata Banerjee there in Kolkata. In order to curb the rise in cyber crimes, the government has now constituted a high-level interministerial committee. The Ministry of Home Affairs has said that several cybercrime incidents targeting India have been originating from the Southeast Asian region. Timsy standing by with more details. Timsy, take us through the details of this committee and more specifically, what is being looked into?
Well, as you rightly said, that government is now stepping up measures to curb and these are efforts to curb cybercrime, and Ministry of Home Affairs has constituted a high-level interministerial committee to mitigate cybercrime originating from Southeast Asia, targeting Indian nationals. The move comes on the back of the fact and the cognizance that the Indian government has taken, especially after noting complaints from Indian embassies on protests by Indians in Cambodia and other Southeast Asian countries for suspectedly being caught up in a cybercrime. Now, several such crime traces were reported at Ministry of Home Affairs from Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia and other Southeast Asian countries. And noting this, Ministry of Home Affairs in a targeted action has blocked over 3,000 URLs, 595 apps, about 3.25 lakh mule accounts were frozen or deactivated from making debit transactions, an action which was taken within 4 months. Similarly, 5.3 lakh SIM cards and over 80,000 IMEI numbers were suspended or revoked since July 2023, and over 3,000 cases of unlawful online content was taken down within 2 months. The modus operandi, according to MHA, which includes majorly using Indian SIM cards to target Indian nationals, exploiting social media to lure youth with fake job opportunities. And this interministerial committee will now be working very closely, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of External Affairs, RBI, DFS, Financial Intelligence Unit, banks, Department of Telecom, District Intelligence Unit, fintech companies, etc. are part of this committee. And most importantly, the most common nature of cybercrimes includes investment scams, pig butchering scams, trading app scams, dating app scams, etc. So all of this is now under government's radar, and let's see how these efforts can actually lead to curbing further cybercrimes that are happening with Indian nationals.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. In fact, staying with cybercrimes, the government action comes after the Visakhapatnam police uncovered a human trafficking racket operating in Cambodia. As per the police, over 300 Indians were lured to Singapore with the promise of jobs. They were later trafficked to Cambodia, where their passports were seized. They were also tortured into committing cybercrimes against Indian nationals. These individuals have been rescued and repatriated to India. Now, 10 seats in Haryana go to the polls this Saturday. This includes Kurukshetra, which is set to witness a high-profile contest with former Congress MP and industrialist Naveen Jindal fighting on a BJP ticket this time. He faces Indian National Lok Dal's Abhay Chautala and Aam Aadmi Party's Haryana chief Sushil Gupta. The seat was recently vacated by Nayab Singh Saini after becoming the chief minister. Can the BJP retain the seat, or will the opposition be able to win it back? Abhimanyu Sharma explains the importance of battleground Kurukshetra.
A place with immense historical and religious significance, the Kurukshetra Lok Sabha constituency is comprised of 9 assembly segments which are largely agrarian and were witness to the year-long farmer protests in 2020 and 21 against the now revoked farm laws. The constituency is looking to grow its industry beyond dairy and farming and possibly capitalize on its infrastructure and connectivity within northern India. Kurukshetra is a land of historical importance. After all, the Mahabharata was fought here. Today the battle here is for the Lok Sabha elections and every party is pulling out all stops. This is a largely agrarian constituency and people here have red flagged lack of infrastructure and stagnating farm incomes as major issues.
वोट तो जी विकास के नाम पे देंगे जी, फसल मरती रहती है, किसान परेशान है और एक बेरोजगारी की समस्या है।
गांव की सफाई होनी चाहिए, गरीबा ना भी देखो, मीरा ना भी देखो।
कोई मुद्दा नहीं है, मरता है मोदी सरकार अब की बार।
जो लड़कियां गुआंढ में जाती है पढ़ने के लिए, इनके लिए कोई सुविधा होनी चाहिए।
Unemployment is a major issue here, with a large number of families ready to pay lakhs to send their children abroad for better opportunities, even if it means sending them illegally.
कोई भी रोजगार नहीं है, युवा मतलब कि इतनी स्टडी करने के बाद भी विदेशों में जा रहा है। अब सारे देश में देख लो, बच्चे 50-50 लाख रुपए लाके डोंकी मार के कोई अमेरिका जा रहा है, कोई ऑस्ट्रेलिया जा रहा है, कोई कनाडा जा रहा है। मैं तो ये कहता हूँ कि यदि अमेरिका, ऑस्ट्रेलिया और कनाडा ये बंद कर दे, बाहर आने के बाद यहाँ पे देखो कितना भुखमरी फैलेगी।
Sensing a political opportunity, Naveen Jindal dished the Congress and joined the BJP to fight from his home turf of Kurukshetra. He says he will strive to provide better skill-based training to youth.
There's a culture that people want to go abroad. So this culture is there in lots of villages, and a lot of our, more than 100,000 youth from this area are in America, Canada. I want to set up a very good training center, a vocational training center, one in Kurukshetra, one in Kaithal, which will together train 10,000 students, and then there'll be no dearth of jobs. They'll be able to work in India. Top companies will line up to hire them.
But Jindal's decision to leave the Congress on the eve of the election has also raised questions.
मोदी साहब ने यहाँ बोला था कि हम कोयला चोर को वोट दोगे क्या? अब वो कोयला चोर इनका आज एमपी का इलेक्शन लड़ रहा है।
हमारे जिंदल साहब अब सही समय और सही प्लेटफॉर्म पे आए हैं।
While the BJP's Naveen Jindal is confident of his electoral prospects, courtesy his political experience and the BJP's image, the Kurukshetra Lok Sabha seat is all set to witness a multi-cornered contest with candidates from the INLD and the India Alliance also in the fray. It remains to be seen whether the INLD is going to cause a fragmentation in the votes cast by the Jat community and whether the supporters of the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress are jointly going to vote for the India Alliance candidate, since both the parties are contesting separately a few kilometers away in Punjab. In Kurukshetra with video journalist HK Patra, this is Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC-TV18.
Delhi and Haryana go through the polls on Saturday. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. We've got plenty more up next. Stay right there.